Chapter 1 Exorcism. On Wednesday the 9th of August, 1815, HMS Northumberland weighed anchor off Plymouth and set sail for the island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, bearing away from Europe the man who dominated it for the best part of 2 decades. All those who had lived in fear of the ogre heaved sighs of relief. "Unfortunately," wrote the philosopher Joseph de Maistre, "it is only his person that has gone, and he has left us his morals. His genius could at least control the demons he had unleashed, and order them to do only that degree of harm that he required of them. Those demons are still with us, and now there is nobody with the power to harness them." The man in question, Napoleon Bonaparte, former Emperor of the French, had said as much himself. "After I go," he had declared to one of his ministers, "the revolution, or rather the ideas which inspired it, will resume their work with renewed force." As he paced the deck with what the captain of the 74-gun man-of-war Charles Ross described as something between a waddle and a swagger, he appeared untroubled by any thought of the demons he was leaving behind. He was more concerned with his treatment at the hands of the British to whom he'd surrendered, who refused to acknowledge his title. He was addressed as General Bonaparte, and accorded no more than the honours due to a prisoner of that rank. 2 days earlier, protesting vigorously, he had been unceremoniously transferred from HMS Bellerophon, which had brought him to the shores of England, to the Northumberland, in which Rear Admiral Sir George Cockburn, commander of the flotilla that was to convey him to his new abode, had hoisted his flag. He had been subjected to a thorough search on coming aboard, and his baggage was turned over. Captain Ross noted that he had a very rich service of plate, and perhaps the most costly and beautiful service of porcelain ever made, a small field library, a middling stock of clothes, and about 4,000 Napoleons in money, which was confiscated and sent to the British Treasury. Dignity had never been Napoleon's strong suit, and his attempts to elicit the honours due to his imperial status were doomed. Nor did he elicit much sympathy outside the group of devoted followers who'd elected to share his captivity. On first meeting him, Captain Ross found him sallow and pot-bellied, and thought him altogether a very nasty, priest-like looking fellow. Closer acquaintance as they set sail did nothing to soften his view. Admiral Cockburn described his habit of eating with his fingers and his manners in general as uncouth. Napoleon and 6 of his entourage, which with domestics and the children of some of his companions totalled 27, dined at the captain's table, along with the admiral and the colonel of the regiment of foot which was to guard him. He soon abandoned his efforts to assume improper consequence by, for instance, trying to embarrass the British officers into removing their hats when he did, or into leaving the dinner table when he rose. After dinner, he would play chess with members of his own entourage and whist or 21 with the British officers, from whom he took English lessons and whom he willingly entertained with accounts of the more sensational episodes of his life, particularly his Egyptian and Russian campaigns, often going into lengthy explanations and self-justifications. He was sometimes listless and absent, and occasionally indisposed through seasickness or the other discomforts of shipboard life, but on the whole he was cheerful and gave the impression of having left behind not only his ambitions but all concern for the future of the continent he'd held in thrall for so long. On the evening of 11th of September, 5 weeks into the voyage, and less than 3 months since he had stood at the head of a formidable army on the field of Waterloo, he read aloud for over 2 hours to the assembled company from a book of Persian tales. That same evening, the man who had contributed most to his downfall, Tsar Alexander of Russia, was giving thanks to the Lord at the end of what he professed had been the most beautiful day of his life. On a plain beside the small town of Vertus in the Champagne region of France, he had staged an extravagant display of military might and religious commitment, meant to herald the dawning of a new era of universal peace and harmony.